Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Hello and good evening to you. First tonight, more explosive claims against Labor MP David Obyrne have come to light during the first day back in Parliament. Independent MP Christy Johnston using parliamentary privilege to reveal more women have spoken out about the former Labor leader's conduct. But Mr Obyrne has refuted those allegations.
A new day in Parliament and a new seat on the opposition bench for David Obyrne. The focus on the former Labor leader as he doubled down on his future in the party.
I have advised the Parliamentary Labor Party and I advise the Parliament today that I will remain a member of the party and serve as a Labor member for Franklin for the remainder of the term.
It comes after an independent report found no further action should be taken against him after a complaint was raised by a former union employee earlier this year. This morning, independent MP Christy Johnston used parliamentary privilege to voice further claims against Mr Obyrne.
Mr Obyrne took it upon himself to contact potential witnesses for the complainant and to try and influence the evidence that they might give.
Before alleging her sister was not the only woman to raise concerns about his behaviour.
By my count, at least 5 other women since 2007 and as recently as December last year. And each of these women know of others.
The outcome of the independent investigation prompting strong reactions across the floor of Parliament.
The processes that have been put in place have not satisfied anyone. And certainly have left, unfortunately, many questions still to be answered.
What does it say about the Labor Party? It says that there is a rot inside the Labor Party.
As well as his statement in Parliament this morning, David Obyrne has refuted the further allegations made against him. And while his intentions remain clear, all eyes are on Rebecca White and the Labor Party to see how they respond.
Labor fundamentally believes in fairness and we will continue to fight for fairness for all women.
Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
An 80-year-old woman is fighting for life after being hit by a garbage truck in the Obyrne CBD. Bystanders rushed to render assistance with an off-duty nurse providing first aid.
Police blocked off one of Burnie's busiest city streets for 2 hours as they investigated a horrific collision.
Pedestrian versus truck crashes are never good, I've got to say. Her description is, by the medical staff is critical.
Shop workers and bystanders rushed to the elderly woman's aid.
A nice lady came racing in here and grabbed a couple of sheets and a few things. At the time she said she was a nurse.
She was taken to the Northwest Regional Hospital where she remains tonight. The truck driver has been required to undertake mandatory blood testing.
You can appreciate the trauma that was involved in that. I can only appreciate they'd be in a shock condition.
The National Heavy Vehicle Regulator was also called in to examine the circumstances of the crash.
The garbage truck has been seized and will be subject to further examinations.
Police say the woman was crossing here when the garbage truck turned left onto Catley Street and collided with her. Officers say it's unclear whether there was a green or red light at the pedestrian crossing. Locals say the busy intersection often has close calls.
This particular corner here and the corner on Telstra is actually a hazard.
Police are reviewing CCTV as they continue their investigations.
I understand that the garbage truck also had CCTV, so we'll be conducting analysis of that as well.
Letitia Wallace, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's path to the AFL will be laid out next year, with the league announcing clubs will vote on a proposal for a team. The cries of the state's footballing community to be answered as it gears up towards its biggest ever weekend.
It's not the fabled timeline that Tasmania's long hoped for. Rather, a timeline for the timeline.
The decision for a Tasmanian AFL licence will be once and for all made next year.
In a statement, the AFL said club presidents would discuss the Carter Review and finalise the league's funding model before a preferred model was put forward for a decision in early 2022. The Premier's threat to ban footy, now withdrawn, set to roll over agreements with the state's existing tenants.
Both the Tasmanian Government's offices and ours at Hawthorn and North Melbourne We'll be getting on to those negotiations fairly quickly. As far as we're concerned, it's very good news.
Not fazed by working on a 1 year at a time basis.
Well, it's better than working on a no deal, no year basis.
Another boost for a state flush with footy fever leading up to its first ever finals games. Tickets for this weekend's elimination finals sold out in just hours.
This clearly shows the interest that we have had in these weekends games, how much Tasmanians do love their footy.
But crowd limits set to stay, despite legions of disappointed fans.
We know that we have more broadly across the community a range of parameters in place to make sure that Tasmanians can stay safe from COVID.
A further blow, seeing tickets pop up on reseller websites with mammoth markups. $329, the going price on one site. Missing out, not just a blow to the hearts of footy fans, but the hip pockets too. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
A consultation paper has been released into suspended sentences and various types of court orders. The Sentencing Advisory Council is conducting a review into whether suspended sentences should be used for certain offences, as well as examining home detention, community correction and drug treatment orders. The Council is seeking feedback on its paper, with submissions to close on September 13. Police have fined 23 motorists in a 2-hour traffic blitz across Hobart this morning. A staggering 21 drivers were caught using their mobile phones while driving. Another was given an infringement for failing to stop at a red light, while one person was caught being inattentive behind the wheel. The operation involved uniform and plainclothed officers, both on foot and in traffic across the CBD. A timeline has finally been released for TASTafe's transition to a government business. The state government expects a transition will be complete by next July, but the union says the plan is unrealistic.
A Tasmanian apprentice off to represent the state at the World Skills competition.
I've learnt to hone my natural ability with timber. I've always had a gift for it, and I think I'm excited to showcase that.
Praising his experience at TASTafe, the state government announces a timeline for its restructure. Legislation to establish it as a not-for-profit government business to be in place by the end of the year. By July next year, the transition should be complete.
Ultimately, this is about making TASTafe stronger. We've made a commitment for 80% of our skills funding to be going into TASTafe.
While the minister didn't drill down into the details today, she says more will be released in the coming months.
I think from an industry perspective, it's about being agile. It's about being able to better meet the changing needs of industry in the future.
The first round of trainer recruitment set to be underway by November.
The timeline to us is totally unrealistic. They've mentioned up that they're going to employ trainers within a couple of months, but the current awards and agreements don't even include the position of trainers.
Staff will be consulted going forward.
This is an industry-informed implementation plan. We have held meetings with a range of different stakeholders from industry as well as employee representatives.
But when you have the highest satisfaction rates in Australia for your students and your employers, one does wonder where we're actually failing industry.
Thursday's budget will include more than $135 million for skills and training, $98 million of that going towards TASTafe. Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
The Hobart City Council is a step closer to limiting the number of new short-stay visitor accommodation coming online. Last night, the council agreed to pursue action to limit the number of new planning permits issued for self-catered entire properties.
We just need to be careful about how many of these visitor accommodation businesses are in our suburbs of Hobart, because we want to ensure that there are rental properties for residents.
If the Hobart City Council wants to jeopardise the economic investment that comes into their area and the jobs that supports, then this is exactly the way to do it. We would caution them don't.
It's unclear what form the changes will take, but it could see new permits only allowed in commercial areas. Op shops and pops are having their clothing racks raided ahead of the Junction Festival's Tweed ride. Dressed to the nines atop vintage bikes and penny farthings, participants will weave through the city in celebration of its historic cycling culture.
It's just such a beautiful aesthetic when you look at the buildings in Launceston, beautiful bikes.
It's such a vibrant, exciting time in Launceston, and it's a great time for people to get out on their bikes and have a lot of fun.
The ride will be held next Sunday on the last day of the week-long annual arts extravaganza. Fairy tale characters fill the stage in Scotch Obyrne College's latest production, Shrek. Based on the Oscar-winning classic, the musical follows the grumpy yet lovable ogre's quest to reclaim his swamp. The story stays true to its original script, but with extra backstories to the main characters. The showrunner
eased into the role, became a bit more grumpy along the way.
I would impersonate the Scottish accent. Didn't have to try too hard because kind of already had a bit of it going on. But yeah, it was one of my favourite films.
Hockey now. University has had a season to forget, but the club is optimistic for next year. The men's side lost 2 of its key playmakers in the off-season, but found form on the weekend, beating Diamondbacks 2-1. The women's side managed a 1-1 draw, but will finish last on the table, regardless of how they go in the final round.
We've definitely still come away with some good results in terms of development, but also in terms of a few wins, few draws against some of the better teams.
Our young guys have really stepped up well in the second half of the season, and we're carrying momentum through. Even though we're not making the finals, it's going to put us in a good path for pre-season next year.
The pin-up game coming up is Northwest Grads and OHA in the men's, the winner to finish second heading into finals.
Good evening. 14 degrees in Hobart and Burnie today, which was the state's top, 13 for Launceston and 11 at Devonport. King Island, Smithton, Friendly Beaches and Strawn all reached 13, 12 recorded at Flinders Island, Low Head, Maria Island, Grove and Ouse. 11 degrees in St Helens and a chilly top of 5 in Lyoweeney. There was some high-level cloud over the far and northeast and cumulus clouds scattered across the rest of the state. Looking at the rest of Australia, high-level cloud was also seen over the mainland, swirling into a deep low off New South Wales. Tomorrow, the deep low persists over the Tasman Sea, while a high south of the Bight continues to extend over the mainland and south of Tasmania. South to southwesterly winds up to 35 knots about the northeast, and seas reaching a swell of up to 4 metres there. A gale warning is current for northeastern coastal waters from Flinders Island to St Helens for southerly winds, and a strong wind warning for the remaining northern and eastern coastal waters from Sandy Cape to Tasman Island. Looking to tomorrow, cloudy in Hobart and Geeveston, both with a top of 12, and 9 degrees in Bothwell. Launceston and Devonport reaching a high of 13 and 12 for Cressy. Sunny and 13 in Burnie and a bit of cloud around Strawn and Curry. 12 and cloudy in St Helens and Orford, similar conditions for Swansea. To the 3-day forecast, light showers about the east and south on Thursday with a bit of morning frost about the northwest. Friday, the showers continue for the east and south, but mainly fine elsewhere. And looking ahead to the weekend, fine conditions apart from some light showers about the east and northwest. Australia-wide, sunny in Perth and showers for Adelaide, a shower or 2 for Melbourne and Sydney, temperatures in the mid-teens, 13 in Canberra and a sunny 22 for Brisbane. And it's cloudy around the region at the moment, Hobart 9 degrees, Launceston 8 and Devonport 8 as well. That's all the news for now. Back to you, Kim.
Okay, thanks very much, Tiani. Well, that is all we have time for tonight. Thanks for your company. Enjoy the opening ceremony of the Paralympics here on 7 Tasmania from 9:15. For now, good night.